corporation and they want you to help them in a regional area, and you may be licensed in all those places to do so, or have some ability to do that. But again, this is not a very common license. Usually these commercial transactions have a long life cycle, so rarely are they going to last very long for having this. You can renew it. You can renew this license on the Real Estate Commission's website if you're here for a period of time. Most of the time they're going to be short-lived. Questions on that? Okay. Here is a good question. So if we have a homeowner, for sale by owner, they're going to offer $2,000 for anybody that sends a buyer to their house, and they're going to put these flyers up all over town. Can they do that?
No.
Why not?
Because you're asking somebody to break the law.
Oh yeah. So they're offering $2,000 to someone to find a buyer in a real estate transaction. That's what y'all do.
Unless you're licensed.
Yeah. Yeah, they can do it. They just can't pay you to do it. Another example that I think I have this one. I have it in here it is. So here's one that I see all the time. Apartment complex offering 2 months free rent if you sign a 12-month lease. Does the tenant need a license?
No.
Well, they're basically getting something of value which could be perceived as payment or a commission, right?
So I would say if they're offering 2 months free to that tenant, meaning you're okay. However, what happens is they do this and say, what if you are here and you refer a tenant who signs us a 12-month lease, and you would get 2 months free rent off of your rent?
When you say you, are you talking about a broker or are you talking about anybody?
Anybody. So what we see in this capacity is you're a tenant at the apartment complex. The apartment complex says we're low on vacancies. We got too many vacancies.
Referral fees.
We need you to go find a friend to rent a unit. And if you do, we'll give you 2 free months of rent.
Finder's fee.
Yeah, that is, you need a
But
license.
you can't receive commission for that. That would be real estate
That's
commission.
compensation.
Correct. This is where you would need a license. Now, I see it all the time, right?
Yeah.
But it is a license law violation.
Huh.
They cannot compensate a current tenant for finding another tenant. That's what we do. We get paid to find tenants. We get paid to find buyers. So I cannot give them compensation for helping LL Bean, somebody else, right, lease.
So,
yeah.
who's in violation? The apartment complex, the tenant who finds the new tenant, or both?
Both. Yeah, both the apartment
So it's
complex.
illegal
would
to
be fine.
offer the compensation, not just receive compensation.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And it happens all the time. It's not just this. It comes in a variety of ways between, finder's fees and different things. And just again, if you have a license and you're doing license activity, cool. If you don't have a license and you're doing license activity, not so cool.
So not many people report it, so it's not really a big deal.
I mean, they'd have to be reported,
Yeah.
but ultimately, commission could investigate. An unlicensed assistant under a property management. So, for those of you really, really, really loving real estate and want to be in it, but can't pass this class, property management is a good option. Because you can do everything in property management that a broker can do without a license, except negotiate leases. That's the only thing you cannot do. You cannot negotiate lease terms.
Negotiate includes filling them out, explaining them, going over the form and all that, or literally just the setting the price and agreement of.
The latter. I can fill in the lease,
You
go
can't.
over it.
That's administrative clerical tasks.
I cannot. What if I sign a 15-month lease? Will they do a lesser amount? Let me ask the manager.
Got it.
Other than that, they can do it.
It's the old card trick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go talk to the manager.
Yeah, good talking to man. Yeah, the truly, and there's a lot of reason for this. Property management has a hefty workload in general, but it does have to be a W-2 employee. It cannot be just a friend, but a W-2 employee who works for a real estate property management company. I'll get it out. Can do everything that broker can do, and in my capacity, that's how I was the broker. My wife did everything. Now we have a manager. He was unlicensed, so I held the license and they did everything. Because by the way, we don't really negotiate. Now he has a license, so he is the manager with the license, and my wife still does all the trust account stuff, and she does the trust account, she does the leases, she does the document, she does all that stuff, and I don't have to get involved unless somebody wants to negotiate, which is very rare. So and this varies, and the reason I want to spend a minute here is this varies drastically from the property management world to the sales world. Because all of these things you can do in the property management world, you can't do in the sales world if you don't have a license. So unlicensed assistants, W-2 in sales, cannot hold open houses. They can not legally fill in pre-printed forms. They cannot perform they can't do that one. They cannot show property. These are the two they can't do. And this is the big difference because sales brokers get real busy and they don't want to do that open house on Sunday 2 to 4. So they want their unlicensed assistant to hold it open. Can't do it. Property manager doesn't want to hold an open house on Sunday 2 to 4. Unlicensed W-2 employee, go hold it open. Assuming that's within the hours that I've said that you can work. So a big difference between what you can and cannot do in property management versus not. Unlicensed in the sales or unlicensed assistants other than the property management world can do these things. None of the other. They cannot show property, hold open houses, perform tasks that would ever give the appearance that they have a license. And I get that question a lot from brokers. Can an unlicensed assistant do this? Can they do that? Probably not.
If you have to ask, probably not.
If you have to ask, probably not. So unlicensed assistants are still the responsibility of the brokers. So even though they are unlicensed, it still falls on the broker. If I have a property manager, if my wife botches the trust account, that's on me. So I still have to inspect what I expect. Do I need a license to sell timeshares?
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, you do. Or at least someone does at the timeshare. So, and we'll talk more about timeshares in a minute, but real estate commission, you'll need to know the composition of. So there are 9 members of the real estate commission. By the way, you have several right here in Winston. Of the real estate commission, 2 are appointed that cannot, in any way, shape, or form, be involved in real estate. So they're just like average consumers typically. 3 of them have to be in the business. So of the 9, 5 of them have to fall in these categories. Of the total composition, 7 of them are appointed by the governor. It's all about who you know. 1 by the Senate and 1 by the House. So that's how we get our composition. And a lot of times, these folks are people that are very busy in the association or work with the real estate commission a lot because the real estate commission will often make recommendations to who would be a good fit. So I have several instructor friends who serve on this committee. George Bell, who's actually here in Winston, was the chair of the real estate commission and is also serving on the commission. I have several other realtor friends throughout the state. So y'all got commissioners in your backyard. Yeah, isn't that scary?
And that's on the 50% test, by the way.
Yeah, this composition, it's in blue. You'll need to know those numbers, just how it's pretty important. So who's who? Commission's purpose is to protect the consumer, by the way. They are not your friend. We have a friendly relationship, but they are not here for you. They are here to protect the consumer from you. And that is their primary objective. And in order to do so, they have the ability to take disciplinary action against you if you should fail to follow real estate law. So, here are the 3 things that they can do to you. They can reprimand, they can suspend, and they can revoke.
You have C
They
here.
can never fine you. Is C in yours?
Censure.
Scratch it out. So
It's
the
in the
C,
book, too.
yeah, you can scratch it out.
Okay.
Because it was removed. Actually, I asked the real estate commission at one of my instructor seminars. I was like, I get these guys. What's this censure thing? They're like, huh? They're like, yeah. I'm like, y'all make us teach it in pre-license. What is it? I don't know. We don't do that. Can we get it out of the pre-license material? So now it's out. So these are the 3 things that the real estate commission will do. I think censure was more of a close and warn type of product, meaning no real action happened. But reprimand.
Unless they've changed the code, it's still in the code.
They have.
Okay.
Actually, I think it just changed last year, as a matter of fact.
So this book is just before that.
Yeah, it's very new. Because I've been teaching, I guess, 2 or 3 years, and I brought it up the first year. But yeah, so reprimand is you get on the back of the bulletin that I told you about.
Pages of shame.
Pages of shame.
Pages of shame.
And typically, no action is taken upon your license. It's more of a embarrass you in front of your friends, put a note in your file, don't let it happen again. Suspend is we're going to take your license away from you, or let me rephrase it. You're going to have it, you just can't use it. And most of the time, with a disciplinary action that involves a suspension, it can be stayed, meaning they will stay the suspension if you take a class. So they might do a 12-month suspension. You can't use your license for 12 months, but if you take a class on license law, then we will take the suspension away. So it is stayed if you take that class. So, but they can suspend it for whatever period of time. You have to be willfully misrepresenting things. What's a willful misrepresentation?
You lie.
Purposeful.
You're lying on purpose. You have to work pretty hard to have your license revoked. The Real Estate Commission does not want to take your livelihood. That is not their goal. They understand you make a living doing this. They're not out to crush you in business. If you are being malicious to the consumer, though, they will not hesitate to take it away. This is usually fraud, embezzlement, really just causing harm. Most of these other things you can fix, you can cure. I've even seen trust account violations. $30,000 missing from your trust account. But they put it back. So they would just suspend for 12 months. As long as they took a class on trust accounts, they could keep on rolling. Because they didn't do any harm. All the money's back. They just didn't follow protocol. Learn, do better.
Was it intentional or what?
One of them was. I know one where they,
And they still
Needed
have
some
the
floats.
back?
it was during the recession. They just
They
said,
needed float.
you know, times were lean. I used the trust account to pay the bills, and as soon as we got back up, I put it right back in.
Oh,
And they got suspended, and they said, don't ever do it again. They did actually have to fire their broker in charge and the person that was doing their trust account. But the firm still operates. So, and that's why I said you're really having to do the malicious intent. So if in fact they had not put that money back and lost $30,000, they caused harm. Now that's a serious level of offense. You're probably going to revoke your license. If you are any kind of mortgage fraud, any federal charges, things like that, you're going to lose your license. I actually was talking to somebody the other day that was at a case study that, so anytime there is an investigation by the Real Estate Commission, they will mail you this little brown envelope. Kind of looks like Publishers Clearinghouse, just not as lucky. And
well, that was not much better.
yeah, no, I never would know anything. The purpose of that is someone has filed a complaint and they're investigating. Excuse me. Based on the brown envelope, so someone has submitted a complaint, they have one side of the story. The brown envelope is to get your side of the story. Once all evidence is submitted, the Real Estate Commission will do one of a few things. They will look at this and say, this is just a frivolous complaint, close, get it out of here, no big deal. Or they're gonna like, we might need to look at this a little bit further. And so they might come investigate. And if they find you in violation of law, then they will prescribe the appropriate treatment. Sometimes, when you have these complaints, they will ask you to come to Raleigh to sit before the 9 members. It's usually actually only 3, they take shifts, but sit before some of the commissioners and explain your position. And at that hearing, those commissioners will then take notes, take it back to the full commission, and they will decide what they feel like they should do. And one of the ones that this person I was talking to was one lady was being investigated on 3 different complaints from 3 different people on the same day at the Real Estate Commission. They took her license. All 3 were pretty malicious, and they're like, no, and they revoked her license, and she no longer has one. And that's what they're looking for. If you're causing harm, you will lose your license. If you just were negligent, messed up, we can fix you with education, that's what they'll do. They'll fix you with education. If they feel like you're really hurting the consumer, you don't get a license. You don't get to keep it.
You don't get it back either, right?
You can, actually sometimes you can reapply. The last one I saw was it was revoked and they were not able to reapply for another 5 years. Yes, sir. Comes back with it.
Do they occasionally reprimand and require further education, or is that normally a suspension?
Yeah, a lot of times the reprimand will come with education too.
What if you keep making the same mistake when you get bumped up to the next level?
Yes, if it's multiple offenses, yeah, they will. After multiple offenses, they will start to rain down on you.
Okay.
Now, notice in the middle. What am I looking at?
No money.
No money.
They will not fine you. Now, let me also reiterate.
Indirectly, they are.
Well, true, you're paying dues. So, the Real Estate Commission cannot fine licensees. They will not fine you. Now, that does not mean you won't have to write checks in your life. Because this is the Real Estate Commission. This is not a civil court. Violators can sue you. If you have harmed a consumer, they could still sue your butt for damages, right?
Whether the commission does anything or not.
Commission doesn't. The commission may or may not take that into account, and they may or may not deal with that. But that does not absolve a buyer or seller or manager, client, the ability to sue you. So if you're violating any kind of laws, you can still get sued. It's just that the commission is not going to fine you for it. They're going to prescribe one of these in conjunction with it.
But aren't you usually covered by insurance by the company you work for?
It's a great question, and to answer your question, she said, what about insurance? So most companies do have an errors and omissions insurance, which will cover basic mess-ups. Typically not going to cover malicious, like harmful acts. There is no insurance for fair housing violations. So if you're doing discriminatory advertising and things like that, you're on your own. And lots of bad repercussions from that. So, can help you from writing such large checks. We actually had one that was like, yeah, can you buy my $350,000 house back for me? No, I can't. But E&O could. And if it was an errors and omissions thing, which in this case it wasn't, it was a whole different story. They couldn't get high-speed internet, but this is the other thing that would trigger the revocation. So if you're doing embezzling, forgery, fraud, moral turpitude, that's pretty broad. But believe you me, they need that in there. Because sometimes moral turpitude is you are flirting with the compass of morality, meaning you know that's the right thing to do, but you did it wrong, you did it anyway, or you didn't do it. So if you are acting in a way that would, and actually there is a statute that says acting as a real estate broker incompetently. So if you are deemed as being incompetent in your practice of real estate and representing the consumers, you may subject to Real Estate Commission violation. And this is, by the way, if you've been convicted or pled guilty. Let me be very, very clear. Guilty or convicted. We are innocent until proven guilty or pled guilty. If you are charged with anything, not your problem until it's one of these statuses. Okay?
So nothing changes, they don't flag it temporarily until they investigate it or anything like that, it's just.
So this is correct. So if you are found guilty or pled guilty to any of these, it will usually result in an automatic revocation. If it is a charge of this, nothing will happen until this has been resolved. Because we assume, again, you're guilty, or you're innocent until proven guilty.
That's the real America.
Yes, that's true too. That's true.
Depends on the county.
This is the question. When does the commission come and take action against you? So there are times where you might get that little brown envelope. And I already gave you one example of where you might get that little brown envelope, and that is when someone does what? Complain. If a consumer, by the way, anybody can complain to the Real Estate Commission. They have a nice little button on their website that says file a complaint.
Even if you didn't have a deal with them or weren't
File
involved with
a
them.
complaint.
I saw it.
And it is, and actually, historically, if you wanted to file a complaint, it was, let me mail you something, you fill it out and mail it back, and we didn't have that many. Then they're like, we're going paperless, let's put it on the website. Boom, 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 boom.
300%.
It's like, you could see the day the button went live, because the complaints went through the roof. Many of which are frivolous complaints. I didn't win that multiple offer, I didn't get the bid. My broker was rude to me. You'd be surprised. So a lot of them are close and dismiss for no reason at all. But the commission will send you an envelope to get your side of the story every time. By the way, number one rule, respond. Do not ignore them. We had somebody do that. They got the envelope and they're like, it was a frivolous complaint, I'm not answering them. The Real Estate Commission was going to file a complaint against us for not cooperating. Always cooperate. We did give them our side and it was dismissed, but it went away. So the other time the commission can intervene, do you have a question?
Oh, I think she was.
I think,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
do they have a limited amount of time to complain between the incident?
No,
So-
her question was, do they have a limited amount of time to complain? Technically, no. So what does happen is if it's usually older than 3 years, because of
Oh,
our
really?
record retention law, there may or may not be documents to support it. So if someone has purged their files after 3 years, and someone files a complaint, the commission says, let me see your file, and you've purged it, which you're legally allowed to do after 3 years, there may not be evidence to substantiate it.
I mean,
Or defend it.
Or defend it.
To help you.
Yeah, either way, good or bad.
Yeah, that's.
Which is another reason I just always keep my, like, as long as I can. I have most of the files from 15 years ago. Doesn't mean I don't have to purge them, it just means I can purge them. That rule was really more in effect when we had paper. Like, you just had boxes. I remember in Kernersville, our attic was full of boxes and boxes of paper, and I was the young guy, so I had to carry them up and down. I've superseded that position, I don't have to be there anymore. However, paperless, throw it in Dropbox, throw it somewhere safe, secure, online, and it can stay for as long as I want it there. So there is no statute of frauds against the complaint, it's just sometimes the evidence is harder to come by. Or statute of limitations, sorry, statute of limitations, thank you. Other thing the commission may do to investigate is random audits. They might just be like, let's call that guy. Or mail them a letter. And we actually did, we got a random audit. By the way, when you renew your license now, which everyone will do every year, they will ask you, do you have a trust account? Well, guess what? I have a trust account. So now instead of 110,000 licensees that they have to hone through and see who has a trust account, they know the 10 or 20% of us that do, and we got a letter. Said, hey, we want to see your last 3 transactions. Give us a copy of your journal, your ledger, your bank account, and your reconciliations. Okay. So we did. And I'm not gonna lie, I hired a consultant to review it before I sent it in. But everything was good. But all they did was, it was called a spot audit. They mail you a letter, you mail them what they ask, they look at it, they'll make any notes if there's anything discrepancies. If it's good, they leave you alone. If they see something broken, they're coming to see you, and you will get a full audit, and they will go through all your files. They can do this in your sales transaction. Hey, let me see your last 3 buyer transactions. And you need to be able to pull out the file and show them the worker real estate brochure, show them all your buyer agency agreements, all your documents associated with that transaction to make sure you're filing the record of retention and keeping and doing everything you should be doing.
So does each broker do that then, or just a broker in charge?
Each broker could do that.
And what the-
Well, they could audit any person with a license. The real estate commission can send that person a letter. Likely, the commission in that capacity would spot audit a firm, but it could be any one person.
Not a provision, no word.
It could be a provisional word.
I mean, the provisional will also have an account, or will they use the broker in charge?
So if it's a provisional, they would likely, if it's an active provisional, they would probably ding, but by the way, in any of these, your broker in charge gets a copy. So even as a provisional, I'm gonna get a copy of the request or a complaint.
Oh, I meant,
They wouldn't have
as
their own
far as
trust
having the account,
The trust account?
yes.
So a provisional cannot have a trust
That's
account,
what I
so
was
yeah, it
asking.
would be on the firm. They would spot audit the firm with the trust account.
So it would be the firm, not the broker in charge?
Correct, so with trust accounts, usually in most capacities, a firm would have a trust account, not necessarily a person.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, there's some gray area there, but fundamentally, that's the way it
Okay.
works.
okay.
You talk about trust account for earnest money.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, now the reason I'm different is because I'm a property manager. That's why I have a trust account. If I didn't manage if I wasn't a landlord and property manager person, I would not have a trust account. Highly
all
recommend
costs.
at all costs. I avoided it at all costs. I think it was probably 6 years into my career before we ever went down that road. And I was kicking and screaming.
Does the commission ever call out and do like role play, like try to act like they're trying to buy or sell something and see what you will say or do or not do or anything like that?
So they will
Shop you.
secret shop you. Yeah, his question was, will the commission secret shop? Yes. Actually, I knew of a story not too long ago. There's a gentleman named Larry Outlaw who's, he passed a little bit early, but he was one of the commissioners, and he was shopping for a place at the beach and went to look at condos, and broker shows him condos, and he's like, yeah, come on, look at this. And he's like, don't you have anything you want to, tell me or go over? It's like, no, let's go look at this condo. So you sure? Nothing maybe I should read or anything that I need to read about? No, let's go look at this condo. And so at the end of the day, they did find a condo, but Larry, being that he was not necessarily on the clock at the moment, did give a courtesy call to that broker in charge, saying, just so you know, you might want to have the working with real estate agent conversation with them again, because I didn't get it.
Yikes.
Would you want to be the broker that took the head of the real estate commission shopping and didn't go over the brochure?
Wow.
Yeah, scary. So again, not causing harm, and he wasn't out to get the man's license. He just said, hey, you just need to have a conversation. We need to educate a little better. He was doing a fine job. He just gotta protect the consumer and inform them of their options. So they can do spot audits, they can investigate complaints, they can do full audits. So they can come in. By the way, the trust account is what we call an on-demand account. The reason it's a trust account is it's other people's money. It's safeguarded. It can't come out until those people let it come out. So your bank account and a trust account, the real estate commission could walk into your bank and say, let me see Stephen Nolan's trust account, and they would have to let him see it. I don't even have to give permission, because it's not my money. It's their money, on demand. And they could audit the file. Isn't that exciting? So that's the commission. If in fact someone is practicing without a license, the commission can file an injunction. Where have we heard this injunction word for? Where have we heard this at? HOA, good. So if in violation of an HOA rule, an injunction, court order, can be issued to stop it. If a person is found practicing real estate without a license, the real estate commission would file an injunction, a court order to stop them. So that's that. The commission cannot practice law, declare contracts void, regulate commission. This is actually important. Even though commission is in their name, they don't care about your money. That's between you and your firm. They don't care if you get paid at all. Well, you gotta get paid something, otherwise you don't need a license. Salaries, fees, fines, draft or prescribe real estate contracts. They're not the one who write that. Who writes the contracts? The
Attorney.
Bar Association, the attorneys. They do not act as a board of arbitration. They will not order brokers to reimburse trust accounts or trust funds for the seller's loss. They don't deal with money. There are times where you will have a commission dispute. I'm owed money. This can go to your board of realtors. This can go to your association for arbitration or mediation. May end up in litigation. Remember we talked about being a realtor? The Code of Ethics actually requires realtors to arbitrate or mediate before they can litigate.
You mean between an agency and an individual broker?
Between brokers. So these are in
Okay.
regards to commission disputes.
Oh, okay.
And
So
commission's
the
our money.
listing agent didn't give you my money.
Right. Yeah.
Or-
Or I was the procuring cause and I'm due that money and I didn't get it.
Yeah,
So then I'm going to take the firm and I'm going to complain against your firm and see if I can get some money.
gotcha.
Now, again, we can never hold up a transaction. Buyer and seller want to make a deal, you let them make a deal. Commission checks go wherever commission checks go. If you feel like you were done wrong, you can file it with the grievance committee and they will hear it if it is justified. And they can, through the board of realtors, actually prescribe commission disbursements. Good times. Which is also important to keep up with your paperwork. Now remember, the commission is not the courts, they're different. One is they can do these things, one they can fine and imprison or judge you, or give you judgment. They may judge you, they give you
Put your
judgment.
judgment
Yeah.
against.
Yeah, so this is the courts, this is the commission. One may be independent. You could be found over here with a reprimand, not necessarily violating any civil laws. You could be civil laws, likely still going to hit a violation over here somewhere. But they're different. No fines, no courts, no money, likely fines, courts, and money. Questions on that? If not, that's probably a good place to stop for today. Check out your videos.